I would like to now introduce the chair of the board of the Great River Economic Development Foundation, who will officially introduce the governor. Dan Henke.
Thank you, Bob, and good morning, everyone. It looks like we've dodged the raindrops for a while, so I will certainly be brief and give all the time we can to the governor. Great River Economic Development Foundation has one purpose, and that's jobs. We believe that maintaining and growing jobs is our core job, and we believe it is the anchor for all economic development in a region and in the community. Whether it's working with existing businesses or growing new business, we believe that that is what we do, and that's what we get up to think about every day. We feel we have no greater friend or supporter in that cause than my distinguished guest, which I'm introducing to you now, Governor Bruce Rauner.
Thank you very much. Bless you, thank you. I am very excited to be here, very excited to be. You know that I've been here a lot in Adams County and Quincy over the last couple of years, and I'm going to be here a lot over the next 4 years. I'm here because I'm working for you. I wanted you to know I'm working for you. I'm here to tell you what we're working on right now and to get your support. We're at a key turning point in Illinois' development. We're at a key turning point in our history. We need to turn our state around. We've been declining. We're going to start thriving, and we're going to start it right now. And with your help, we're going to get the legislature to take some very difficult votes. Change is scary. Change is difficult. And the special interest groups that like the current status quo in Illinois, they're not going to want to give up their power or change very easily. But you know what? We are going to change because our change is about empowering you. It's about empowering the families, the voters, the taxpayers of Illinois to get control of your government. It's your government. It doesn't belong to any special interest group in Springfield. It belongs to you. You should control your government. You should control your economy. You should control your schools. When we free you up to get control of your lives and your destiny, Illinois will thrive because we've got the hardest working people in America. We've got the best location of any state in America. We've got the most fertile farms in America. We've had the best infrastructure in America, and we're going to make it a lot better. We have every reason to thrive, but we've got to get the special interest groups in Springfield off of your backs and out of your economy and free you up to compete. And when we are free, Illinois workers are free to compete, we will kick tails. We will thrive compared to Missouri and Iowa and Indiana and Wisconsin, as well as Germany and China and all the other places that Illinois competes with. We will thrive when you are freed up to compete, and I'm so excited. We've got our what we call our turnaround agenda, and you've got a little bit of a summary of it that we passed out to you. I hope you'll listen and learn about it. You can also come to illinois.gov online and get the full detail of it, illinois.gov, come online. I'm traveling the state right now, 7 days a week. I drove over from my home in Springfield, and yes, no, it's all right. That's a change right there. It's a change. It's an honor to be there. It's our home. It's your home. It's an honor for me to live there, my wife and me, and our dogs. Our kids are gone, but the dogs are with us. And it's an honor to be there. But I've traveled the state 7 days a week. One of the things I love about my role as governor now is I get to spend my time with you, with the people of the state. It's wonderful. I'm really enjoying it. It's a privilege to work for you. It really is. I'm very honored. I'm humbled to work for you. And we're going to deliver results. We're going to make the government working for you again. The government's not going to work for the special interests anymore. The government's going to work for you. And I'm very excited to make that transition, that change, that turnaround for you. So there's a couple of key elements to the turnaround that I want you to understand. I'm meeting with elected officials all over the state. I'm meeting with mayors, especially, and county board members, especially, along with school superintendents and teachers. I want to explain how we're going to turn around and empower them to get control of what's going on in their communities and their organizations. Mayors are just like me. They need balanced budgets. They need a strong economy. They need great schools, and they need a reasonable tax burden. Mayors are dealing with the same issues I'm dealing with, and they're on the front lines every day. So I'm meeting with mayors explaining this agenda, and I'm asking them to vote, pass resolutions in city councils and in county boards all over the state to vote to endorse our agenda, and it's happening. And that's great, because that creates the momentum and the groundswell to let the General Assembly know it's the time. Let's vote for this now. Because getting the General Assembly to take votes is hard. And change is scary. And when the special interest groups get mad and threaten the legislators, they don't want to take tough votes. And so when they know that you want it, when they know that local people, the families of Illinois want change, and mayors want change, and county boards want change, and school superintendents want change. They'll get it done. So it's your help to do it, and I'm excited. That's why I'm here. I've been meeting with elected officials right here this morning. I'm meeting with local media as well, and then from here I'm over to Beardstown, over to Peoria, and then I'm going to go down to Marion tomorrow. We're all over the state spreading this message. Key parts of it. We need to become more competitive with our economy. We need to change workers' compensation. We're not competitive on workers' compensation. We need to change unemployment insurance. We're not competitive on unemployment insurance. We need to change our lawsuit system, our abuse, and we need tort reform because we're not competitive on our tort system. We need to change those things, and the good news is we have bipartisan support in Springfield to help us get those things done. So our businesses, our small business owners can compete here in Illinois, compete with the other states around the nation. And then we need to get a handle on our taxes. You know our taxes are punishingly high, especially our property tax. Our property taxes are the #1 tax. We've got challenges with all our taxes. Our sales tax is high, our property tax is high, our income tax is pretty high. It's not the biggest problem, although it's pretty high. Now, and I'm getting a lot of pressure over in Springfield. Everybody's telling me, Bruce, just raise the income tax and you'll fix our problems. People say, put in a graduated income tax, that'll fix our problems. And let me be clear, that will not fix our problems. And I say, look, you can point to many other states. You can look at California, New York, New Jersey, many states, Connecticut, where they put in a graduated income tax. And I like to point out to New Jersey, because the governor there is a friend of mine. I don't pick on him, but I pick on New Jersey, because they're just like us, the same population, high income state, well strategically located. They're a lot like us. They've got very high taxes, a lot of corruption, a lot of power of special interest groups. And look, they've got really high property taxes, just like us. Us in New Jersey have the highest property taxes in America. They have a very high sales tax, just like us, and they put in a graduated income tax. They've done what people are trying to get me to do. They've already done it, and you know what? They can't afford to pay their pensions. They are not paying their pensions. I don't want to go there. New Jersey's a lovely place. I don't want to go to New Jersey. I want us to thrive here. That means we got to change the structure of the government to get that frees up the resources. Right now, the bureaucracy is consuming the resources. I want to shrink the government bureaucracy and put the money into our local economy and into our local schools and also into our social services. I'm a big believer we should have good social services for our neediest and most vulnerable residents. We need a good program to help our veterans who are struggling to get reestablished. We need to help our developmentally disabled. We need to help our kids growing up in poverty who need early childhood education and support. We need to help our elderly citizens that are living with very low incomes and are struggling to get by. They deserve our support. We have a moral obligation to help them. The money should be in those services and in our economy to grow great careers, not in the government bureaucracy. That's the key. We got to shrink the bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy in Illinois is out of control. You know we have 7,000 units of government in Illinois, double what most states have. And that means patronage and cronyism and pensions and pay. We have a lot of bureaucracy. We also have hundreds of unfunded mandates, hundreds and hundreds of regulations that get put on local communities by Springfield that cost you a lot of money and that really don't want to add value to your government or to your schools. We need to shrink those unfunded mandates in the units of government, and we've got a task force working on that right now. And here's the really key issue, and my message to you is, I want you to control what goes on in your government. The government is yours. It doesn't belong to anybody else. It belongs to you, and it should work for you. You should decide what gets collectively bargained in your government. You should decide. If you want everybody who works for you in the city of Quincy or in the county, in Adams County, if you want them to all be in a union and collectively bargain everything, that's fine. You should have that. That's what's happening today. But if you want to change that, like 29 states have changed, and like the federal government does, where collective bargaining is limited to certain issues, and not everybody has to join a union in order to work for you, you should be able to decide that. You should control it. It's your government. It doesn't belong to anybody else. And people say, oh, Bruce, that's such a radical idea. Geez, you're an extremist. You're a right-wing radical. No, I'm not. I'm a centrist. I'm a pragmatic centrist. 29 states don't allow fair share union dues collection inside the government. 29 states. This is not a radical idea. And the federal government, which is not exactly a bastion of conservatism, the federal government doesn't allow fair share union dues collection inside the government. This is not a radical, and that was put in by Franklin Roosevelt, one of the most pro-union presidents in American history. And the last time the labor regulations inside the federal government was changed was 1978. Democratic president, Democratic Congress, No, and they put it in place. No fair share union dues collection and collectively bargaining only on certain things, not other things. They do that because there's no balance of power. Once there's dominant power inside the government with a union, there's no pushback on the other side. And you know elected officials have a hard time with conflict. They don't like, nobody likes conflict. You kick the can down the road and you say yes all the time. Yes, 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 just let's not fight. Well, that leads to financial ruin. That leads to spending in the bureaucracy rather than spending in our economy and in our social services. The city of Chicago, I have many friends there, and I was actually born there originally. You know what? That city is sliding towards bankruptcy, and the Chicago public schools are sliding towards bankruptcy because you guys have heard about the Chicago machine. You've heard the Chicago machine. The Chicago machine is a government union machine. That's what it is, and it's dying of its own weight. And that same thing is happening in our Springfield government, and the same thing is happening in many local governments around the state. There are many villages and communities, cities around the state of Illinois that are on the verge of bankruptcy because of the government cost and the pension costs. So we've got to change that. We need to empower you. It's your government. You should decide. And how should we deal with pensions? Because pensions are one of the big consumers of resources that could go other places. Here's what I personally believe. Irrespective of what the Supreme Court decides, I believe we should pass a constitutional referendum so our Constitution is clear that what we should do is protect historical pensions, protect. They'll retire. If somebody's retired, they got their benefit, it shouldn't be reduced. You don't reduce a retiree's benefit after the fact. That's not fair to a retiree. You also don't reduce the benefits that have been accrued and paid into by a current worker. If they've accrued a benefit and paid into it, they get that benefit. But there's no reason we can't freeze and protect that benefit, freeze it where it is today, and create a second pension plan for future work, for current workers, for their work starting tomorrow. Corporate America has done that for decades to get out of their pension trouble. There's no reason that governments can't do the same thing. It's fair, it's reasonable, and if we do that at the state level, it'll save you, out of your taxes, $2.7 billion first year. And all it does is, we already have a tier 2 plan in place that current workers, the new hires are going into. We can just say, for a current employee, you get your tier 1 payment that you've accrued so far when you retire, plus you get your tier 2 payment for your future work when you retire. Nothing unfair about that. Nothing unreasonable about it. It doesn't take away anybody's benefit. You're protected for what you got so far. But think about that. $2.7 billion. And I want you in Quincy, Adams County, to be able to control your pensions and have those kind of changes available to you. Relieve a lot of your tax burden so you can put the money in your schools and put the money in your social services and in your infrastructure. We need world-class infrastructure. In this part of the state especially, we need to invest materially in infrastructure. I want to free up resources from the state and do one of the biggest ongoing infrastructure investment programs that ever has been done in Illinois history. The best roads, bridges, airports, locks, dams, canals. I'm just talking about the development of the port potentially on the river. Very exciting. I'm very excited about our economic growth and career development for Illinois is hinged to our infrastructure. Because our location is so critical to the American economy and Illinois' economy, I'm all in for infrastructure. We put our money in infrastructure and into our schools. I'm a big, big public school advocate. I want the best public schools in America, and I want them properly funded. We've been cutting school funding for years. And even though we've got a financial crisis, I'm increasing school funding by $300 million from the state. I want more. We're 50 out of 50. We're dead last among the states for state support for education. I want to move us up significantly. And even in the crisis budget, I'm increasing it by $300 million. But it's not only funding, I want to bring back vocational training back into our public high schools again. We used to do that pretty well in Illinois. We've moved away from that. And not everybody's destined for a 4-year college. That doesn't fit everybody. But everybody deserves a great career. Everybody deserves a great career. And we can have great careers if they're given the vocational training, the technical training, and not have to have their parents come out of pocket for huge tuition. It should be part of our education system, just like they do over in Germany and other countries where they got stronger education than we do here. We need to bring that back. And here's the bottom line for the local government. You should decide collective bargaining. And on this question of inside your government, if you want the status quo, keep it. There's a big issue now in prevailing wage and project labor agreements. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but in Illinois, Springfield doesn't allow you to do competitive bidding when you build an infrastructure project with taxpayer money. You have to pay a certain wage level, you have to restrict who can bid and you control what the labor contracts are in the bid. Why? Because taxpayers are doing it to Springfield tell you how you have to do that. That's not right. You should decide. It's your project. When you build a school now, I don't know if you know this, but you should become aware. When you build a school, when you build a road with taxpayer money, you have to spend generally 20 to 30% more, sometimes 35% more than you otherwise would if you could competitively bid, because of these restrictions that Springfield puts on you. You shouldn't, if you want to have the prevailing wage structure, fine, you can have it, but you should decide. You shouldn't be told by Springfield. You should control your own competitive bidding and your own projects. They're your schools. They're your roads. You should decide how the competitive bidding goes. They belong to you. They don't belong to Springfield. They belong to you. It's your community. And now the same thing, now there's a big fight going on around the nation about this right to work issue. You know, Indiana's gone right to work, Wisconsin just went right to work, Missouri's got a bill pending on right to work. That's a big issue on competitiveness and a competitive level playing field. And the right to work states have been outgrowing the closed shop states for years. And that's one of the reasons we've been losing our jobs in manufacturing in Illinois. I don't think we need to go, and I don't support us going right to work as a state in Illinois. I don't support doing that. But we can allow local governments to decide that for themselves. That's allowed under federal labor law. And what I need as governor, because I'm working for you to grow our economy, I need to get Illinois on the list. And what I mean by that is, there's a list of right to work states and there's a list of closed shop states. Right now it's 25 and 25. And a lot of relocation firms and a lot of corporate America won't look to expand or grow in a closed shop state. They'll only do it in the employment flexible states. And those relocation firms, it's binary. You're either on the list or you're off the list. I need to get Illinois on the list. It doesn't have to be in every community, it doesn't have to be in every county, but if a few counties or a few cities vote to have employment empowerment zones where employees can choose to join a union or not join a union as a condition of employment, that will get us on the list. And I've been by how well Western Illinois is doing. Because you guys are at the nexus. You're the backbone right here. You have all the opportunity for prosperity here, and I want to unleash it and unleash you so you can thrive and make great careers. Rising family incomes, outstanding schools right here in Adams County and all over Western Illinois. Together we're going to do it. Encourage your elected officials, encourage your legislators to vote for the turnaround agenda. Let's get you empowered, get the power back to you. Let's make Illinois great again. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you. Appreciate it. Look forward to working together. Thank you very much. I just got the high sign. I got a couple minutes before I'm going to Beardstown and then Peoria. But I got a couple minutes for questions. Anybody, one or two questions? Anybody? Any issue you want to raise or topic you want to talk about? Yes, sir.
I have to raise the issue that is burning for everyone at Quincy University, given your commitment to infrastructure and public-private partnership. Our virtual infrastructure, our technology infrastructure, was agreed upon in October as something the state would help us with, given the fact that we don't rely or we don't consume state dollars for operations, we don't contribute a dime to the state's pension problem, we deal with those problems ourselves. This was one small way, small for the state, but big for us, in which we could move forward in partnership with the state. I'm wondering if you could give us a sense of where that's going.
Yeah, so this is raising on this issue, but this broadly. I'm getting a lot of questions. They say, Governor, gosh, you had to cut this, or you cut that, or you froze this, you know, and I'm getting a lot of feedback and concern. And listen, I totally get it. And I don't want to do freezes, I don't want to have to do cuts, but I also have to bring discipline to our state government, because we're spending money that we don't have. And cuts are painful, I don't want to have to make them, and freezes are painful, I don't have to do it, but you know what? But we don't have a future if we don't have financial discipline. And my message to everyone is, please stay with me, hang in there. This is a difficult time, but we're going to have some short-term pain for some really good long-term gain. Really big long-term gain. Help me get through this phase of painful cuts and restructuring. And if you'll help us get this turnaround plan done, it's going to free up resources and get us growing. And for example, I've had to cut the funding for local governments in the distributed fund. I don't want to have to do that. It's not the mayor's fault that we've got a financial crisis. But if you'll help us get the agenda done, I'll have more money in the federal, in the state government to restore some of the cuts. And I'll also empower you and your local governments to have more control of your costs in the city and the county level and in our colleges. Now I've had to I've kept community colleges funding flat even though we've got a crisis. I've increased state K-12 funding by $300 million. Now I've cut state universities in the budget. I don't want to do that. In fact, I want the best state universities in the world. But one of the things we've got in Illinois is a huge overhead bureaucracy problem in our system, especially in our state universities. I want the money should go into the classroom with the teachers and the students on tuition. It should be in the classroom in all education. It shouldn't go into the bureaucracy. Right now, as I've seen the numbers, the level...
With the governor this morning, one thing that I'm hearing about this turnaround agenda is that it returns a lot of control over particularly state mandates to local government. That's very important to us when you're talking about all sorts of issues that really impact our budget, whether it be prevailing wage, union negotiations. We'd like to see some relief there, not necessarily changing the whole paradigm, but give us an opportunity to control our own destiny. And this turnaround agenda absolutely does that. So we're grateful for the opportunity to be here with the governor today and listen and see what we can do to be part of the solution with the state's budget problems instead of part of the problem. So thanks for the opportunity to speak today.
Welcome to Quincy, everybody. I want to thank the governor for coming to Quincy. He's been a great friend to us. We had a really great meeting with the mayors and county board, elected officials. I think it's so important that the governor's coming here to talk about his agenda. We've seen here in Adams County what local voters can do when they decide their own destiny. We passed in November $89 million worth of new construction projects for our schools. We just passed 2 days ago $25 million to build a new jail. And we want that local control to continue here in Adams County so we can continue to flourish. There are things as a mayor that I want to do in the city that I can't do because things are controlled by Springfield. We need to be able to control our own destiny in city government. We need to be able to control our own destiny for economic development. And I am pleased that we have a governor who is listening to us, who is proposing ideas to help cities and municipalities and counties out. And it's my pleasure to introduce our governor, Bruce Rauner.
Thanks, everyone. It's great to be back in Adams County. Great to be back in Western Illinois. I drove over from Springfield this morning. I've been here a lot the last couple of years. I'll be here a lot as governor over the next 4 years. Western Illinois has the opportunity to flourish and thrive if we empower local voters to get control back in our economy, back into our local governments and into our schools. And that's what I'm here to talk about, is how to turn our state around, thrive again so we've got great careers, rising family incomes, a reasonable tax burden, the best schools in America by empowering local voters. That's my message. That's what I'm here meeting with today, and where I'm going over to Peoria later on, and I was in the Quad Cities yesterday. We're spreading the message of how we're going to turn our great state around so we're thriving again by empowering local voters. Local voters should decide what gets collectively bargained inside their governments. Well, the governments belong to the people. It doesn't belong to special interest groups in Springfield. Collective bargaining should be controlled by the local voters. It should be controlled by local voters for the schools. And in terms of our economic competitiveness, if local voters would like to have employment empowerment zones so they compete with Iowa and Wisconsin and Indiana and Michigan and Tennessee and Texas, they should be allowed to do that. Springfield shouldn't restrict it. It should be allowed. So Adams County can have an employment empowerment zone if they would like to in order to compete. If we do that, along with changing our business regulations around workers' compensation, unemployment insurance, and we have tort reform, so our regulations are competitive with the other states around us, we will thrive, and Western Illinois especially will thrive because of this key location and all the great hardworking people and natural resources we have here. So we're going to turn our state around by empowering local voters, and that's our message today. And I'm happy to do some questions. Yes?
As a college student, we are wondering, what will the Illinois turnaround do to state funding such as the MAP grants?
Yes, that's a great question. With our turnaround agenda, if we can get that passed over the next 90 days in the General Assembly, that will free up significant resources that we can then put into our education, and whether it's for tuition reduction, whether it's for scholarships, whether it's for funding for money in the classroom for our teachers and our professors. That's where the money should go. It shouldn't go into the bureaucracy of the state government or in local governments, or frankly into the bureaucracy of some of our schools where the overhead, the administrative layers, is taking a lot of the money that should go to our students and should go to our teachers in the classroom. That's where the money should go.
What should the average everyday working class Illinois resident know about the Illinois turnaround plan?
That's a great question. What we want every family, hardworking family in Illinois, your taxpayers, your property taxes are too high. We want to empower you to be able to control when and how property taxes are increased. Your income tax is pretty high. We want to keep it low and competitive so you can keep more of your pay. And we want to get a booming economy where companies are coming to Illinois and competing to hire you and your family members and your neighbors, so incomes are rising. Competition and growth gets wages rising. And if the tax burden is reasonable and we have great schools, including vocational training back into our public high schools again, our young people are trained, we've got rising incomes and a strong economy, and we'll be prosperous. That's what I want everybody to know.
Do you have a time frame in the future when you plan on calling a special election for the vacant spot left by Jeremy Shaw?
Yes, we have. In fact, we've come out, I believe, I don't want to get the date wrong, we've got the first round of elections to replace for Aaron Schock's congressional seat. I think the first round is in July, and I think the final election, I believe, is in September. And those dates are out. I think your listeners could look online and get the exact date.
When can residents see positive changes from this plan?
Well, that's a great question. I believe we can get this passed now in the General Assembly, and I'd encourage your listeners and your viewers to contact your legislators and let them know, vote for the administration, the governor's turnaround plan now. We're going to try to get this vote done by the end of June. And then I think we'll begin to see more economic growth, more tax relief, and more school funding right in the first year, and then improving every year after that.